Helping Seniors Television, all about improving quality of life for seniors. If you're a senior, know a senior, or plan to be a senior, then this show is for you. It's all about helping you develop your own aging plan so you can age actively and with dignity. Helping Seniors Television from the Helping Seniors Network of information, education, and resources.
On today's edition of Helping Seniors TV, learn about retirement planning from the experts. August Velten of August H. Velten Associates Incorporated joins Helping Seniors TV host Kerry Fink for an informative and easy-to-follow look at making the most of your retirement income, either as you plan for retirement or even as you have moved already into retirement.
And I'm Kerry Fink, and welcome to Helping Seniors Television. I'm here for Joe Steckler, and it's a pleasure to be sitting with a good friend, August Velten of August H. Velten Financial and Associates. Welcome to the TV program.
Thank you.
I literally have to say this. There's a companion show that you do not want to miss. You'll want to find this because all the TV shows that we do are put up and available on demand on the Helping Seniors YouTube channel. So if you go to the Helping Seniors YouTube channel, you'll be able to find a great program that Joe just finished working with August on about Social Security planning. So these two TV programs sort of bookend with each other. And what we're going to talk about today is retirement planning. So it's the perfect complement to what we were just covering in the past show. But I guess maybe a place to begin with, because a lot of times people have different conceptions of the word retirement planning. What do you define, or how do you explain it? I know you teach classes all the time to people about this. How do you explain to them this is retirement planning?
Okay, and that actually is a very good question, and what everybody is really interested in, and a lot of people are misinformed or misguided, or however you want to put it. A plan is not an accumulation plan. That we've already gotten there. We're getting ready for retirement. So we've accumulated these dollars, IRA dollars, 401k dollars, 403b dollars, whatever it may be. We have these dollars. Now we have to sit back and say, number one, how long does that money have to last? How am I going to generate income from it? What assets are going to be taxed? What assets are not going to be taxed? Or if they're going to be taxed, how are they going to be taxed? And when should I trigger, let's call it trigger income from this source of assets compared to this source of assets? And that has a lot to do with Social Security, but it also has a lot to do with taxation. So one of the things that we should cover today is tax efficiency. Right. All right, and I'm going to give an example of tax efficiency when it comes to Social Security. But when you sit down to create a plan for retirement, you need to talk about healthcare needs and how you're going to cover that. The last thing you want to do is to feel that you have to have a lot of assets sitting in the bank in cash for that day when you might need it for medical expenses. You need to set up programs that will cover you as best as possible for healthcare needs, so that you don't waste money having it sitting in the bank earning very little these days. Because again, when you're not earning as much as inflation, let's say, then those dollars are being eaten up, and your retirement plan is going to suffer. So we want to talk about health care. We want to talk about longevity. Again, taxation, when to take Social Security, which represents about 40% of your budget, and what assets to use first. If I want to wait on taking Social Security, well, what assets should I use first? If there are other assets out there, of course, hopefully there are. But again, so 40% of your budget, Social Security, 60% other assets, where they might come from. Again, could come from IRAs, 401ks, 403bs. How do I create the income and when from those assets?
You know, that was really the point that I thought made the last show that you just finished so important, was because you really explained the strategy that you have to take more than just like, I've reached a certain age, so now Social Security is available to me. What kind of factors are you saying that you would look at when considering, helping somebody about, like, let's talk about your specific situation and you're planning to get ready to retire? What are the kind of things that you cover?
All right. I think it's important, number one, to make sure that whoever I'm dealing with understands their risk tolerance. What risk am I willing to take with my dollars that I have? A lot of times, the more assets there are, the more risk people might think they should take, all right? Well, the more assets you are, relatively speaking, the more assets you have, probably the higher your budget needs are going to be. So everything is relative in that regard. So it's a matter of what risk am I taking compared to what I think I'm taking as risk. Most people, in many cases, are taking more risk than they believe because they just simply don't understand, let's say, the market and the risks in the market today and the volatility. So what we try and do then is say, let's reduce volatility. If you have a lot of volatility from your assets, it's very difficult to have a plan of income because you just don't know from year to year. If the market's up, my income's pretty good, but if the market's down,
Right.
and that's where it's coming from, well, now what do I do? If the market's down 2 or 3 years in a row, now I really have a problem. Let me give an example. Let's say you retired in 2001. There's a reason I use that year. Do you remember what happened in 2002? In 2002 was a tech bubble.
Yes.
And most people lost 30 to 40% of their assets in 2002. So now you retired in 2001. So now you thought you were going to have these dollars to now a lot of that money's gone. But you're not working anymore, so you're not replacing it, are you?
Right.
Right? So now we go down the road, and guess what? We've had these issues, and now we hit 2008. Why do I suggest 2008? We got hit again in 2008, 30 to 40% for most people. And so the person that retired in 2001, if they had a lot of their money in the market thinking that it was the same situation as when they were working,
Right.
then, okay, they made that big mistake and their retirement was totally different than what they visualized.
Wow.
And here's a reason. If you're working and you're putting into a 401k, each payday you're putting in money to that 401k. If the market's going up, your 401k balance sheet is going to go up, all right? But in reality, what's happening? The units that you're purchasing for the 401k, they're getting more expensive because the market's going up. So you're buying less and less units for that money.
Right.
On the other hand, if the market's trending down, you're putting the same amount in every payday, it's trending down, your balance sheet on your 401k is going to go down, but you're buying more and more units,
Right.
and they're getting cheaper. That's why you're buying more and more units. The whole point about that is that when the market turns, assuming that you're still reasonably young, middle age, let's say, that you're going to get the availability of having more units that are going to go up in value. That is what has saved people over the years when it comes to 401k. And what it's called is dollar cost averaging.
Okay.
Right? When you retire, there is no longer dollar cost averaging to make that work. Because why? Now you've accumulated the dollars. You were contributing and accumulating. Now you're preserving and taking distributions. You no longer have the ability of dollar cost averaging.
I see. And that really brings to a different point too, because also there's a lot of, it's one thing to just look at, quote, raw dollars, but it really also makes sense to talk about the dollars that you have left after taxable part of it. How does a person plan to include that factor into their retirement planning? Because as you said, you've shifted from this accumulation phase to now your retirement phase. And that means, just as you did before, you would think about how to work things to minimize the tax in every fashion that you could legally. How would you do this when you retire?
Sure. Well, first of all, you might want to grab a piece of paper and a pencil to write some things down here. I'm gonna throw off some numbers as an example here. But the reality is exactly what you just said, Kerry. When you're working, you're living on net dollars. Okay, I always say that your gross income is a fictitious number.
Sure.
We never see it.
Right.
All right. You're living on net dollars. While you're working, you're putting money into your 401k, maybe. You're paying for your medical out of your pay, and then you pay taxes. That's your net income. When you retire, there's no difference. You're going to be living on net dollars after taxes, with probably less deductions than you had when you were working. All right. So taxes on your income does not necessarily go down in retirement. In fact, it can go up. So how do we fix that? We have to be tax efficient. So let me give you a couple examples. Number one is going back to Social Security. If in fact we can wait on taking Social Security, we're going to get 8% delayed credits from your full retirement age, which is based on your year of birth. Okay, most people are 66 or 66 in so many months. If you were born 1960 or later, it's 67. if we can wait and we're going to get those delayed credits and increase our Social Security benefit, our Social Security benefit is not fully taxed. Only a portion of it is taxed. Even in a high income bracket, about 67% of your Social Security benefit has to be included in your taxable income. The rest is not taxable. So how do we fix things? So let's talk about tax efficiency. When people put money into a 401k or an IRA or a 403b, what they're doing is they're entering a partnership with the IRS. All right. So when somebody says to me, "Oh, my 401k, I have $500,000 in my 401k," folks, that's not all your money.
Right.
Okay. Uncle Sam, the IRS, owns part of that money. So how do we fix that? So I'm going to give you a simple example, and I'm going to go back to Social Security for a second. The simple way to do that is to start utilizing Roth IRA. All right, now, what's a Roth IRA? A traditional IRA or a 401k or a 403b, what is happening here is that the government says, okay, or the IRS, let's use the IRS says, okay, you don't have to pay tax on this amount of money, this payday that you're putting into the 401k, right? But that grows to this. So all of that money is now taxable, isn't it? All right? When people reach 70 and a half, they have to start taking what's called a required minimum distribution. Do you know that for 2000, two reasons for this, but for 2017 and 2016, the US government had the highest tax revenue in history.
Wow.
And there's a reason for that. People had to start taking their RMDs at 7 and a half. And the second reason is that people have realized, and they're starting to move money from traditional IRAs to Roth, which is a tax situation. So let's go back to the example though. Hey, I don't have to pay tax on this. It grows to this, and now I have to pay tax on everything. A traditional IRA, which 401k is basically an IRA. Traditional IRA is forever taxed. A Roth IRA is never taxed. So let's look at this. So I don't pay tax on this in a 401k. It grows to this, I pay tax on everything. On the other hand, I could say I'm going to pay tax on this.
Sure.
And it's going to grow to this, and I will never pay tax on this. No one will ever pay tax on this. If I leave it to somebody, they don't pay tax on this.
Wow.
At 7 and a half, I do not have to take an RMD, a required minimum distribution. You know why that is? Because when you take the money out, it's tax-free.
Wow.
IRS does not care that you're taking that money out. They're not going to get tax on it. So Roth becomes very important. And I'm going to give a very specific example. So we look at Social Security again. So Social Security says, okay, it's tax advantage, and what we're going to do is figure out something called provisional income, which is Social Security's way of calculating how much of your Social Security benefit you must include in your regular income.
Right.
So let's just take an example. If we have that piece of paper, let's say we have a couple and their taxable income is $44,000.
Okay.
All right? And their Social Security that they're getting in household from the two, all right, is $24,000.
Okay.
Provisional income, the definition or what's in a provisional income is all taxable dollars plus half of Social Security.
Okay.
That's your provisional income. 24,000, half of 24,000 is 12,000.
Right.
44,000, 12,000 gives me 56,000.
Got it.
That's my provisional income. And then you do a calculation. So the calculation is, and it's a chart, just like, you know, there's a chart for your tax bracket as your
Sure.
income goes up. There's a chart for the provisional income as well. And the first threshold is $32,000. So the calculation very quickly, you take that provisional income and you subtract the first threshold, $32,000. The chart tells you that those dollars, you must include 50% of that number.
Right.
All right. I happen to know from doing this
Right.
that amount is now $12,000 that you're going to include of 24,000 so far. 12,000 you have to include in your taxable income, but you haven't used up all your provisional income.
Right.
Now you go down and you say, okay, what's left? So what's left is at a bracket threshold 44,000, which is normally what you say, oh, that's 85% of that, but they gave you credit for the first 50% that we just did in the first calculation. So the second calculation throws off $4,200. So we have 12,000 and 4,200 is whatever that comes out, 16,200. 16,200 must be included in your taxable income. But the rest of the $24,000 is non-taxable. So quickly go to Roth IRA. 44,000. Let's say half of that was Roth IRA income.
Right.
Roth IRA income is not included
In that
in the
calculation.
provisional income calculation. So now I have 22,000, half of the 44.
Right.
Right. Still have half of my Social Security, 12,000. That's $34,000. What's the first threshold from before? Do you remember?
It was 12, right?
No, first threshold, 32,000.
Oh, 32, right.
Okay, so I have 34. With first threshold is 32. That leaves $2,000. $2,000, 50% on the chart is $1,000.
Right.
What just happened? I went from paying tax on 16.2 to
Right.
paying tax on 1,000 of my Social Security benefit.
Huge difference.
Plus the 22,000 I have is also tax-free, right?
Wow.
So if we do the math, you go down, you say, well, what does that mean? That means that that couple received in $68,000 worth of income and will pay tax on approximately $23,000 of income. So tax efficiency during retirement. If we're paying less tax during our retirement, we're not giving back to the IRS, that's money in our pocket.
Right.
It's either going to benefit us or going to benefit our family.
Absolutely.
But the average American is paying so much in taxes to the IRS during retirement that it's hurting them.
Yes.
Let's go one more situation, if you don't mind.
Sure. Absolutely.
IRA. Let's say you have an IRA, and which normally most people will convert their 401k to IRA before they retire, or several IRAs or whatever. Well, the IRS does not care if you lose money inside your IRA. You still must take an RMD out of it, required minimum distribution out of it. Now, how does that work? On 12/31, let's say somebody was going to turn 70 and a half in 2018. On 12/31 of 2017, you value your IRAs. Whatever they're worth, at 70 and a half, you would divide that by 26.5, okay? And that tells you how much you have to take as an RMD.
Right.
But let's say you take the RMD in June and the market went down by 20%.
Down. Right.
IRS does not care. You must take the RMD based on
Still on
12/31.
that.
So you're taking a hit, let's say 20% on that money that you take out, and then you have to pay tax on it.
Right.
This is when people run out of money.
Right.
So tax efficiency, understanding risk, how to arrange your assets.
Right.
Right. Roth IRA, don't have to worry about taking RMD.
Right.
Don't have to worry about tax on it. It's going to affect what we pay on our Social Security because Social Security in its own is tax advantage.
Yeah.
Right? So
all of this really comes down to that there's a whole lot more to the strategy. And I think you made this point in the program we were talking about before, which is that you typically, a typical, maybe an advisor might be focused on helping on the accumulation phase, whereas what you've really taken this to a whole new level is the strategy that will help you maximize the most in the retirement phase. And I know that you spend a lot of time teaching courses to people so that they can, because there's probably two aspects. Number one, they have to become familiar with the topic, but then also there's a place where it probably makes sense where you need to sit down, understand the specifics of somebody's situation that helps then direct, I guess you would say, like an optimum way to go. But I guess in general, how would assets be organized? Like when you walk somebody into it generally, how do they plan for retirement?
Sure. If we're talking about assets, I always say, listen, at least every house that I've ever owned, in that house, I have a junk drawer.
Sure.
In that junk drawer are all kinds of things, and none of those things are normally coordinated. There's no reason why they're in that junk drawer.
Sure.
Someday maybe we'll find something that actually we need, okay? And maybe it's a battery that's not dead.
Got
or maybe
plenty
it's
of
this
junk
one.
drawers.
Okay, plenty of junk, right? Well, in our lifetime, as we accumulate assets, we normally wind up with a junk drawer. All right, our assets are all over the place. We just accumulated over time. So to make an organized plan, very simple. What we do is we break down your assets into three simple categories, three buckets, so to speak.
Okay.
Okay, we call it yellow money, cash. Green money, protected principal.
Okay.
Okay, retaining my gains, throwing off lifetime income. And red money,
Okay.
which is like ABC, red money is risk reward, money in the market.
Okay.
If we just simply start out by saying, let's take those assets and organize them in that category. So now we just have three buckets to deal with.
Okay.
What do I want to do? How much cash do I want in A, in yellow? How much do I want protected? How much of my retirement do I want protected? That's money in green. How much risk do I want going forward
Sure.
in the market? Now, when you organize that way, then you can say, if I have my Social Security, which is guaranteed, okay, as far as we can tell, guaranteed.
Right.
And I have this green money over here. It's an asset that I've made now, we call green money. That's also protected. Going to throw off guaranteed lifetime income.
Sure.
If those two pieces protect my standard of living, paying my basic bills, I don't have to worry. Every day I wake up, I know my bills are going to get paid because I have a guarantee. Then the red money becomes my quality of life position.
Okay.
Meaning that if the market goes up, I can take a little bit better vacation. If market goes down, I'm not worrying about how I'm going to pay my bills and buy my food. So ABC, 3 buckets of money, better than 2, by the way. Most people come in and they've got cash in the bank and their 401k.
Okay.
All right. And they're saying, okay, we know cash in the bank right now. You really don't, I don't show it as for income.
Right.
All right. And it's not earning anything.
Right.
Always, always will earn less in the bank than the rate of inflation.
Sure.
So they're always losing ground. So it's a matter of how to arrange those. And it's based on risk tolerance for each individual. But here's a simple rule. If you take the number 100 and subtract your age, so let's just say somebody's 60, subtract your age, at least 40. At age 60, the most you should have in the market because of your age 60 is 40%.
Okay.
Just simply subtract your age from 100. 70, 30%, 50, 50%. If somebody's going to continue to work, you can play with that a little bit.
Sure.
But in reality, why we say that for a very important reason. Well, again, we're now at the other end of a football field.
Right.
All right. We're not at the beginning of the football field. We don't have time to make up for mistakes. So we need to be more cautious and understand that we need to preserve what we have. Again, preservation and distribution. If we have it set up that way, and we're pretty comfortable that way, and we've also taken care of tax efficiency, and we know we're going to be able to take less money from our assets because we're not giving so much back to the IRS, our assets are going to last longer.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I'm walking away with the impression here is that there's a lot of nuances, there's a lot of things that people should think through, because it seems like here not knowing is really to your detriment. It seems like it makes sense to invest your time to really understand what you have and how that's going to serve you best in retirement. I know in particular you do a lot with training and you do seminars and things like that. What's a way for people to start to gain, besides obviously going through and picking up tips from the show, what are steps that you recommend to people? How do they advantage themselves for this?
I'm actually associated with an organization called AFES, Financial Education Services.
Okay.
All right. It's a nonprofit organization.
Right.
All right. We're national.
Okay.
We normally teach on college campuses. And what we teach is how to set yourself up in this regard. It's really creating a more financial literacy, let's say, for people over 50, so that they're understanding all the different pieces and aspects of retirement. If somebody comes to a class of mine, they're going to hear an educational class, not a sales class.
Right.
All right. If they come to see me, then products that are out there that, yes, I would sell, okay, whether it be red money or green money, are tools to get them to the model, to be used in the model to get them where they want to be in their retirement. And that's what they should be considered. Not, oh, you're going to try and sell me this or try and sell me that. That's not the point. The point is that you have to have certain items in the toolbox to create a model that's reliable.
Right.
Not pie in the sky. If somebody comes into my office and, well, I expect you to get me 12%, I say, thank you very much. Okay?
Right.
Well, you okay? We're not going to get along because I don't look at it that way, because you're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
Okay. It's just not appropriate at this time of your life.
Yeah.
So it's very, very important to understand. Make a model, have a roadmap. Listen, if you're going to jump in your car right now and drive to Kansas to an address without a map or a GPS,
crazy.
How long would it take you to get there?
Who knows?
Maybe never, right?
Yeah.
Might be a bad situation.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with retirement. If you don't have a roadmap, if you don't have a plan, it's probably not going to work out. You'd have to be extremely lucky to make it work out for yourself.
Right. Now we find that people, because these programs are available on demand, we get calls literally from people all over the country, as well as here in Brevard County. But one of the things is, where would people find out when you are doing the class part of this? Where would they be able to access what AFES is doing?
Well, if you go to afes.org, okay, all the classes are listed for all the different locations. It lists the instructors, of which I'm here in Brevard County, Florida. Right. And they can pick up and see what classes are currently being offered. So right now we have 3 classes. Right now I'm going to be doing the 22nd, which is a Thursday, and then the 23rd will be a Thursday evening.
Yeah.
But they can go online and find that
Right.
at the Government Center in Viera.
Sure.
And on Saturday the 24th would be the same thing, but 9:30 in the morning till 12, same place.
And like, what kind of a class would that be? Because again, like I said, since these shows people can access from time to time, but like the topics that they would expect to find if they go visit.
Exactly what we're talking
website.
about today: Social Security,
Wow.
understanding investing. That comes with workbooks, and sometimes we use actual books that I like the authors and how they present things and stuff like that to make points.
Yeah.
But it's a workbook, educational type of a situation of which then they can follow up. No strings attached. We don't charge for. Somebody comes to my office, they do not pay for planning.
Right.
If I can help somebody, I will. If they stay on board and they like what I do for them and they want to have a relationship as a client-advisor relationship, that's totally up to them.
Well, it seems like there's great wisdom because it seems like at the very least you're going to learn some things that are going to cause you to maybe think about strengthening your retirement planning. And secondly, there's never a non-benefit to thinking in this new dimension, because at the end of the day, it's going to help you and help your family and those people that you care about, is what it would seem. We have just, half a minute left. Is there anything else that you would want to like kind of tie a bow on this, so if somebody walks away from this show and says, this is the next step that they should take from here?
Well, I would tell you that, again, to me, tax efficiency is very, very important.
Sure.
But I think the very simple, the only thing that you will spend if you come to me for help is your time. Good. Period. Nothing else, right? You can walk away with a bunch of information, do what you want, or you can stick with me, because we do a model, a roadmap. Then every year we should be making sure we're on that right. proper path. If we have a roadblock, we want to make sure that we we get around that roadblock, so to speak.
Sounds good. Well, thank you, August, for being on the program today. Lots of good material. Keep looking for Helping Seniors on your TV.
I'm Joe Steckler. Thank you for joining our program today. I'd like to remind you that our senior information line is available to you at 321-473-7770. There you can get help and direction that could be helpful for your specific situation or circumstances. The work of helping seniors is very important, but we can't do it alone. That is why our sponsors here in Brevard County are so important. I'd like to thank our many area sponsors, businesses and medical providers who support the mission of helping seniors that help us carry the cost of our media efforts. If you'd like to join us either as a business partner or simply donate as an individual, we would welcome your call at 321-473-7770. You are always welcome to visit our website at www.helpingseniorsofbrevard.org. Thanks so much for your help. It does make a difference.